Is everything visible? Can you see it?
Yes, okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You can stop the screen right now until I tell you to share the screen, okay?
Okay.
So today is April 16th. Today is April 16th, Wednesday, 2025. The time is 10:41 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on my side of the world. Um, I'm based on, as per the East Coast, like in Canada. Um, we have a very good presentation by one of our students of level 6 diploma in AI Ops RQF level 6 edge computing with AI enhanced resource management and automated security for IoT on AWS and Azure, right? It's at level 6, so it is going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but we will make sure that we keep it as simple as possible, as fluent as possible. Okay. The presentation time is 15 minutes minimum, maximum 25 minutes if you want to stretch it, if you want to explain it more. But keep it short, that's better. Uh, I will be rating your presentation as per different, matrices that we have, the rubric, which is, does the presentation meet the examination requirements? There are other things, but content mastery, organization, presentation skills, use of visuals, usage of AI tools, so on and so forth, right? This is the marking criteria, but then there's also, we give you the feedback of areas of improvement, likely use of AI in the creation of the presentation, and many other things as well. Okay. Once the presentation is over, it will be followed with a 25 to 30 minutes of Q&A. The Q&A is going to consist of 10 questions. Each question will be 2.5 marks. So cumulatively, the first part of the examination is 25 marks, which is presentation. The second part of the examination is 25 marks, which is interview and basically Q&A, right? The Q&A session. We will keep it short, keep it brief. If you need some water or whatever the case is, keep it there with you. If you cannot understand any question that I'm asking you, you can always ask, like, can you please repeat the question? And I will try to rephrase it and make it simpler for you, inshallah. Okay. All right. Are you ready? Yes. Salman Qureshi.
So is the presentation visible?
It is visible. Yes. Your presentation time starts now. Bismillah.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Salman Qureshi, and today I will be presenting a solution that integrates edge computing with AI-enhanced resource management and automated security for IoT on AWS and Azure. Now, with billions of IoT devices generating data, real-time decision making has become critical. AI combined with edge empowers smarter, faster, and more secure system, especially in critical industries like healthcare, transportation, and manufacturing. So my agenda is to give a quick introduction into edge and IoT. Then we will explore how cloud and edge works together, how DevOps helps with automation, how AI is used for resource management and security, and how we can ensure compliance and secure communication using cloud native tools. In the end, I will walk you through an architecture diagram for IoT and edge built on AWS and Azure. So in short, I will walk you through a complete solution that combines edge, IoT, DevOps, AI, compliance, and security all on AWS and Azure. So let's start with the basics. What is edge and IoT? So IoT, Internet of Things, refers to smart devices like sensors, actuators, or embedded systems that collect, process, and share data in real time. These include smart cameras, environmental sensors, and industrial machine, often referred to as IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things. In smart homes, we see IoT devices controlling lighting, security, and other home appliances. In self-driving cars, there are onboard systems that detect obstacles and send the data to the processing units inside the vehicle. So traditionally, all the data that was being generated by these IoT devices was sent to the cloud. but that was costly, inefficient, and unreliable. Now there's another model called edge computing model, where we can process that data locally or closer to the source or device generating that data. This can significantly reduce latency, limit bandwidth usage, improve reliability, and enhances data privacy and energy efficiency. Now, Edge is not only used for IoT, it's also used in content delivery networks, cloud gaming, video streaming, where it reduces lag and provides faster user experience. So why does Edge and IoT work so well together? So as IoT generates massive volumes of data and Edge helps us process that instantly without waiting for the cloud. This results in much faster decisions. This helps in much faster responses, smarter decisions, and more efficient systems overall. So now let's see how cloud-only IoT has some limitations and why combining edge with cloud gives us the best performance. So like I said, traditionally all the data was sent to the cloud, but that had some challenges. Some of them are latency issues. So sending all the data to the cloud and then back introduced delays, which made it even harder to react in real time. Then bandwidth costs, uh, because IoT generate tons of data, and transmitting that constantly to the cloud can get very expensive. The reliability was poor because if there's an issue in the network or if the cloud is unreachable, then all of the IoT devices would just stop working altogether. That's why IoT only cloud only IoT doesn't work well for real-time application. On the other hand, if we combine Edge with cloud, then that gives us the best performance. So here Edge handles real-time decision making at the device level, and cloud is used for long-term storage, training machine learning models, and system analytics. Now, a great example is Tesla. So Tesla uses Edge to make instant driving decisions like braking or lane changes, while it uses Edge for training their AI models and system-wide updates. Now, to support this hybrid model, we have many services, but my focus is on AWS and Azure. So in AWS and Azure, we have AWS IoT Greengrass and Azure IoT Edge for our Edge runtime. For connectivity, we have AWS IoT Core and Azure IoT Hub. For serverless compute automation, we have AWS Lambda and Azure Functions. For storage, we have AWS S3 and Azure Blob Storage. For security and auditing, we have AWS IoT Device Defender and Azure Defender for IoT. So overall, when we combine edge and cloud together, then we get the speed of the edge and the intelligence of the cloud. Now let's see how we can manage and automate edge and IoT deployments using DevOps practices, specifically infrastructure as code or IAC. So IAC is basically the practice of using code to automate and manage IT setups, just like we do with software. This enables automation, version control, and consistent repeatable deployments. Now, this is very important for IoT. So in IoT, we can have hundreds or even thousands of devices, and manually setting them up would be slow, error-prone, and then it's hard to maintain. Now, with using infrastructure as code, we can deploy entire edge systems, including AI, processing functions, storage, and security policies in just one automated step, while ensuring consistency across different edge locations. So an example is deploying an edge AI monitoring system in a smart factory. So using one infrastructure as code strip, we can provision all the components like AI models, cloud storage, and security with just one step. Now, in terms of tools, we have AWS CloudFormation from AWS, which in our case can deploy IoT Greengrass, Lambda, and S3. In Azure, we have Azure Resource Manager that can deploy IoT Edge functions and blobs storage. So one script sets up Edge AI, storage, and security much faster. Now here I have a diagram of infrastructure as code workflow where the infrastructure is defined as code by the user or developer, and it is stored in version control and then deployed using DevOps pipelines. Now let's see how AI-powered resource management and monitoring works at the edge. So AI optimizes resources like bandwidth, computational power, and energy by analyzing real-time data and adjusting workloads dynamically. So for example, in a smart traffic camera system, if bandwidth drops during peak hours, AI can automatically adjust video quality to maintain performance without human intervention. Now here below, I have some points on how AI enhances resource management at the edge. So the first one is predictive resource allocation. AI can use historical data to predict future demand. So for example, if activity spikes at certain hours, AI can pre-allocate resources and prevent bottlenecks. Dynamic load balancing, AI can shift the load between multiple edge location to prevent overload. So if one server is near capacity, AI can shift the load to another one. Power and energy optimization. Here, AI can help us reduce energy waste by turning off idle devices and by scaling down during low traffic. Fault prediction and self-healing. AI can detect machines that are about to fail and can automatically trigger recovery responses. Latency reduction and quality of service. So here AI can prioritize tasks that are more important, like live video streaming, video analytics to ensure smooth performance. Now, cost optimization. So AI here can turn off underutilized resources and can scale only when needed. Now let's look at how cloud and edge work together to enhance AI performance, scalability, and monitoring. So even though edge is used for local processing, cloud still plays a key role in training AI models, storing large data sets, and providing centralized monitoring. So here's how this integration typically works. First, we train our machine learning models using SageMaker or Azure Machine Learning. Once trained, these models are deployed using IoT Greengrass or Azure IoT Edge for processing data locally on the edge for local inference. Now, for system health and resource usage, we can monitor them using CloudWatch or Azure Monitor. So we can track everything remotely and at scale. Now, to bring this to life, let's look at an example of a smart factory that uses hundreds of IoT sensors for monitoring machine health. So without AI, our maintenance is reactive, meaning issues only get fixed when something's break down totally. So this can lead to delays, downtime, and costly repairs. But with AI at the edge and cloud integration in place, our system becomes a lot more proactive. So with AI, our uptime improves. We can focus more on the strategy and less on inspection. Our staff gets real-time dashboards. Our maintenance is planned, and we get a much safer environment overall. Now, let's talk about security, both at the edge and in the cloud, and how AI helps us make our IoT environments more safer. So I have this on four sections. The third and fourth are on the next slide. The first one is threat detection. So AI models running both in the cloud and in the edge can detect unusual behavior like CPU spikes, unexpected traffic, or unauthorized access. For this, we have on AWS, we have Guard Duty and IoT Device Defender. In Azure, we have Azure Sentinel and Defender for IoT. Automated incident response. So once the threat is identified, we can use AI to quickly respond to it, for example, by isolating the device, stopping the service, or sending alerts to administrators. For this, we have AWS Lambda and IoT Device Defender in AWS. In Azure, we have Azure Logic Apps and Defender for IoT Playbooks. Cloud security. Here we ensure secure communication and data protection between IoT devices and the cloud. In AWS, we use KMS, Key Management Service, for encryption, AWS IAM for controlling access to cloud resources, AWS Secrets Manager for storing credentials. In Azure, we can use Azure EduQual for encryption and secrets management, and Azure AD with RBAC to enforce role-based access control throughout the cloud resources. Compliance and policy enforcement. So this is about making sure that everything follow the security standards and that we can audit and enforce security policies. So for this, AWS provides AWS Config, AWS IoT Device Defender, and Azure Policy and Defender for IoT compliance reports. Now, the actual framework depends on the business use case. So if we are dealing with user data of the EU, then we have to follow GDPR. If we are dealing with patient and healthcare data, then HIPAA. And if we are dealing with transaction and payment, then we have to follow PCI DSS. And for other requirements, for other security best practices, we can use the NIST and CIS. And also for IoT, we can use the ISO 30141 family, which has rules and policies regarding IoT environments. So now at the end, I have this AI enhanced edge architecture for IoT on AWS and Azure. So if you want, I can explain this briefly, or we can end this here.
You still have some time.
Yeah.
Out of 25 minutes, you have used 15. If you want to take a stab at it, that's fine. Otherwise, you can stop here and we can dive into the interview. Because I'll be asking you questions anyway from this diagram.
Okay, so let's just end it here.
Okay, so you can stop the screen, please. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So good presentation, straightforward, minimal approach. This is what we're looking for, because when you are in an interview for any organization, they give you a specific time frame, right, to present yourself. So always use this opportunity to present yourself in the best possible manner rather than going deeper into, what the program is, so on and so forth. Okay. All right. So let me open the slides on my side. Okay. So this is a level 6 exam. You scored well in your, in your presentation. As I said, before even coming over here, I did review your presentation early in the morning, right after Fajr. So I had a good idea, and so I wrote down a lot of questions regarding all of these things. Your Al Razak program will be based on your presentation topic, because this is a very hot area right now. Many organizations are looking for people to, pursue careers in IoT on the edge devices. Okay, so looking at this diagram that you showed me in the last one, most of the questions, if not all of the questions, will be coming from here because it covers the whole essence of the topic, right? So in the edge AI architecture, if I'm looking at a diagram, if in an edge AI architecture, right? What potential tolerant design patterns, fault tolerant design, you need to build up fault tolerant within the system, can be applied to ensure zero downtime, right? What do you have to do? In looking at the network diagram that you have and that you showed in the presentation at the very end, how can you, design fault tolerant mechanisms in there for zero downtime?
For our edge systems, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so first we can have redundancy by having multiple edge systems, right? And then we can train AI models for our edge, where it can use dynamic load balancing to shift the workload between the devices and prevent overload. Then we can use AI to automatically scale the devices. So both the horizontal and vertical scaling. In edge, it's a little hard to scale, but we can still apply scaling here. And then scaling and
Okay.
other things, AI.
No, no, I mean, so you can use a combination of load balancers, global load
Yeah.
balancers, multiple devices. Okay. Uh, Explain to me if you have to implement, right? All right. So did you read about MQTT protocol?
Yes.
Explain to me what is MQTT protocol?
So MQTT is a protocol for lightweight devices that can't handle much, where we get a broker and the devices subscribe to that broker for getting information and also for sending information. So the IoT devices send that their data to the broker, and then the broker then sends that data back to other devices or services that have subscribed to that device.
So in the grand scheme of things, like the MQTT protocol, right?
Yes.
Um, can it, uh, explain to me the scalability of MQTT protocol? Why organizations tend to use MQTT from a scalability perspective?
Because like I said, MQTT is lightweight, like it can handle the IoT device computational power
Yes, I
for
mean,
scaling.
yes, that's right. The answer I was looking for is MQTT is designed to be simple and efficient.
Mm.
Basically, it's requires minimal processing, right?
Minimal processing.
And network bandwidth, right? So that's the ideal reason that organizations are looking for. You also already mentioned public and publication and subscribe model that it relies on.
Also,
From
we
the
can use
scalability perspective, that's why it is scalable, that you can take it, and expand it, right? Okay, that's good.
we can
Uh,
use TLS over it to secure it even further.
yes, for the
Encrypt
security purposes, all encryption online or through basically through the internet primarily uses TLS encryption, right? Primarily, right? Okay. All right. So explain to me, uh, given the use of IAC, infrastructure as a code, right, for large scale IoT edge deployment, how would you programmatically enforce policy-based compliance across 10,000 edge nodes in a hybrid, or 10, 15,000 edge nodes in a hybrid AWS and Azure environments?
How would I programmatically uh,
Ensure policy-based compliance. For example, there's a policy for GDPR, there's a policy for privacy policy, something else related to it as well. What would you use to enforce policy-based compliance on a large-scale IoT edge deployment?
Okay, so what I will do is in the infrastructure as code templates, I can write code for using AWS. In AWS, we can write code to use AWS config, or in ARM, we can use code to use Azure policy. And by using config and policy, we can enforce policies, and then we can like check
What would
compliance.
you use? The key thing is, what would you use? Like there's a it's a three-letter word.
What would you I use in like infrastructure as code, or like in the
What would you use to embed within the infrastructure as a code pipeline to evaluate configurations using AWS? You mentioned you will use AWS config rules, Azure policy definitions, yes, but there's a uh, you know something needs to be used, which is known as, it has three-letter word.
three-letter word used in infrastructure as code? uh
Okay,
any other hints? I don't know.
the person, so the the person who was classified uh, as the biggest terrorist in the world. His name started with what?
um, who was classified or who was
Who was classified as the biggest
by
terrorist
US?
by the US? I mean, US is the
Osama bin
biggest,
Laden.
but Osama bin Laden, right? So the first word is O, right?
Oh,
Then the country where you're living in, it starts with what?
P OPCA. No, no.
And then
Protocol.
and then the country which declares everyone, as a terrorist if they don't agree with them. You mentioned O, then there's P, O for Osama, P for Pakistan, and then there is another.
US,
No, I mean US is not the name. They call themselves as what?
United States, America.
America, OPA.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
OPA for the security,
This
right?
you use OPA agents embedded within the
Okay.
configuration rules to, yeah, that's what, okay?
When I was saying OPC, I had this in mind, but I didn't
That's
remember
okay.
the
Okay.
abbreviation.
Okay. All right. When the examiners are going to watch this thing, they're going to say, "What is happening?" Okay. By the way, uh, what I said is the truth. Like, even after all of this thing, what is happening in Palestine and Gaza and whatnot, there was a very old letter by Osama bin Laden, right? Which is now being circulated in the American public. And this was a letter that he wrote down to the American public, explaining what does CIA, who is responsible for spreading all of these problems in the world. It's the CIA and the US, government agencies, right? And just recently, USAID, it does good stuff, but under the guise of the good stuff, it also does many bad stuff as well. Many bad policies are implemented through that as well, right? So that's why I was asking you, what is happening and what needs to be done.
WikiLeaks has so much data on the US and CIA and everything.
Yeah. But still, people will disagree with it, but that's the reality. Okay, describe how would you use a predictive analytics at the edge to preemptively balance load and energy consumption across the distributed smart factory. You showed a smart factory in there, right? Right.
Yes.
How would you preemptively means proactively. You can, if you see the demand is increasing, you put in more, you load balance the load balance the energy consumption across a distributed smart factory. Uh, Within the AWS, what kind of and Azure, what two tools you will use to detect a drift, within the policy, within the power consumption. So remember, the key question is, if you don't understand it, I'm going to break it down again further. For predictive analytics, right?
Mm.
What are the two key tools? One is on AWS, one is on Azure. What are the two key tools which uses machine learning? On AWS, it is
SageMaker.
SageMaker, good. And
SageMaker.
on Azure, it is?
Azure Machine Learning.
Yes. So these are the two tools. You got it right, mashallah. Okay. So what would you do? So you got half of the answer right. So what would you do using these two tools for predictive analytics, right? Because these are
Mm.
the two primary tools. Uh, to preemptively understand, balance the load and energy consumption by the smart factory so that the drift is detected. Like if the power consumption becomes higher and it doesn't get enough power, you know, uh, there can be drift. A drift means like it goes away from its intended objectives and it does something else, right? It can be a drift in the configuration templates. It can be drift on the robotic process automation. It can be drift in any other things because of the load of energy, right? So for example, if you're riding a car and if you put, not
Mm.
enough fuel into it, you will not be able to reach your destination. So as soon as like it runs out, you will be stuck on the road, right? So if you do not balance out the power consumption of the car requirements, obviously you won't be able to reach your destination. In the smart factories, you have to use predictive analytics to give the smart factory devices enough power so that it can complete its job, right? So that there is no drift in the configuration or in the output and whatnot. How would you do that?
So, uh,
You have
We will.
mentioned these things in your, by the way, you have mentioned these things in your presentation. Green grass, right? How would you do that?
Okay, so I will train the machine learning models in SageMaker or Azure ML and then deploy them on edge device using Greengrass and IoT Edge. And there they can like do the inference for predictive analytics, load balancing, fault prediction or fault tolerance and all that.
How old are you, Salman Qureshi?
Uh, I am 18, but in like the documents, it has been written 16. I said this to Muhammad Yusuf just a while ago that if
You
the
should not,
professor asks me,
you,
I will say this.
I'm not going to say anything, okay? You should have just told me what is your actual date of birth as per the papers. You don't have to explain to me, I'm here, there, like anywhere, like, just like, don't do that. Uh, you're doing good, mashallah. The reason I ask you, very good, mashallah. Okay, these are very tough questions. These are the things I've done. So I'm asking you, these topics I generated and I created by inserting all the work I have done in the industry and all the documents I've collected from different, clients and customers. I scrubbed the document from the sensitive information, and then I made them, you know, anonymous, and then I put them in our system to create topics for you, right? So these questions and these topics are coming from myself, right? And so if you answer these questions right, you can apply for some very good, better jobs, from your place, right? You're living in, it's a tribal area, right? Uh,
I'm currently in Islamabad.
you're living in Islamabad right now, okay. I mean, originally you're from the tribal belt, right?
Yeah, I've only lived for like 3, 4 months in my whole life there.
Really?
Yes, I was.
3 4 months, that's it. Have you been to your tribal area? Like,
Yes, I have been to it many times, but haven't much. That's why I didn't know about the Sufi or Muhammad Sufi.
yeah, I mean, I know many people in Bajor agency, and these are agencies, right? So I know many people. So that's why I was asking you. Okay. Anyway, so um, if you have to architect a zero trust edge means, what does zero trust edge mean?
So zero trust edge means that we have zero trust in edge, and zero trust is basically saying that don't trust anyone. Everyone has to authorize and authenticate himself, and we
Perfect.
have to use policies and
At the age of 18, you're telling me stuff that even a person who has done his master's program in IoT and cybersecurity or artificial intelligence cannot answer. You see, this is what you have learned, mashallah. Okay, that's very good, mashallah. So zero trust. If you have to architect a zero trust model, security model, you know, combining AI threat detection, right, and role-based access. Explain to me, how would you do that in a cloud environment? Zero trust architecture works through one thing. The first thing that it comes in. What is that?
zero trust architecture works through what? So zero trust architecture works through like policies.
No, one thing. So in your room, in your house, there are 4 or 5 rooms, right?
Hmm.
If I put everyone in one room and close the door, what do you call it?
Isolation,
Yes, isolation. There is another word for it, right? So let me ask you. So, you're a Pashtun, right?
segmentation or micro segmentation.
Micro segmentation. You're a Pashtun, right?
Yes, I'm a Pashto speaker.
Pashtun speaking, right? Yes, just like me. So, uh, in our gatherings, there's always segmentation. There is micro segmentation. Men and women are different. Men goes there, woman goes there, right? This is microsegmentation. So there is zero trust architecture in Pashtun families, right? That's the beauty about it. When I so when I go back home, I say, "Oh, this is zero trust architecture." The zero trust architecture, they say like, "What is that?" That's what they this. So I explained to them, this is what. So zero trust architecture is mentioned in Quran, in Sunnah, right? And this is what the world implies. So all of these principles are applied there, right? So that's what I was asking you. Good, mashallah. So zero trust architecture and role base. How would you do that? So first you said, yes, for zero trust enforcement in the edge, I would use microsegmentation. What else would you use for role-based access controls implementation?
For role-based access control in the edge.
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is micro-segmentation. Second one, be encryption and authentication and authorizations like tools like Cognito and in Azure. I
Yes,
don't know
yes, yes.
alternative service, but in AWS it's Cognito. So we can authenticate and authorize users.
Yes,
Then
so you use a combination of AWS Secret Manager, Key Vault, IAM services by AWS, and Azure role-based access control with conditional access, right? Good job, mashallah. Okay. Uh, so considering, right? Let's. So what are the primary differences between AWS IoT Greengrass and Azure IoT Edge when it comes to AI inferencing? Inferencing. How do these differences influence deployment strategies in a highly regulated industry like healthcare, right? How would you do that? I mean, healthcare is one of the industries in IoT implementation, which is very highly regulated, right? What are the primary differences?
so the primary differences between Greengrass and IoT Edge. The That's IoT Core and IoT Hub. In Greengrass and IoT Edge, it would be the components and deployments. Like in Greengrass, we have components
Hey,
and
let me
that
ask
we
you, let me ask you. You know this, you know this. This is in the bag, okay? Green grass supports what?
Greengrass supports like it can support containerization, it can support like deployments like from
So it supports Python-based native
yeah, Lambda functions also.
functions, right?
Modules, it's called
And yes, and
module.
low latency machine learning because of containerization, right? You need to go through containerization. This is very important for you, okay? You need to go through Kubernetes exams because when you go into the industry, you will be required to basically work in that, okay? So Azure IoT Edge uses containerization, right? Modules offering better hardware abstraction for healthcare. So explain to me in this context, Azure RB's RBAC integration. Why is Azure RBAC integration a good way, a good methodology to do this thing? Explain that to me.
So the question is, why is RBAC a good thing to do in Edge using IoT Edge?
Yes, I mean, why is Azure RBAC is better, uh, right? Is it why is it preferred in this case, in this scenario, right? Where like there's a AWS IoT Greengrass and Azure IoT Edge, when it is used in the deployment strategies, when it is used in a highly regulated environment like healthcare, why would you, prefer
IoT.
Azure RBAC?
So because Azure RBAC can uh, enhance our security by providing rules that are only used for their respective tasks.
Okay, yeah, it provides a granular access. Uh, Explain to me, what does Azure, AWS CloudTrail provides from a compliance perspective of HIPAA?
Okay, so AWS Cloud Trail provides the activity logs of our cloud, and also like other API and users and all the activity of uh, devices and resources, all of the resources activity.
Good. Okay. In the context of the GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, right? How would you enforce a real-time auditability for AI-driven decision making made at the edge, right? How would you do that?
Can you
Mention,
repeat the
look,
question?
look. I ask you this
Hmm.
question because I ask you about MQTT, I ask you about AWS CloudWatch, and so the questions are building up, right? So
Hmm.
in your diagram, these are all the questions are coming from your diagram. So in the context of the GRC, how would you enforce real-time auditability for AI-driven decision making made at the edge? Explain that to me, please.
So for GRC, we can like you're asking essentially that how we can automate GRC processes like auditing and policy
So
enforcement.
let me break down this question further, okay? Make it easier for you. For establishing real-time auditability, right?
Hmm.
Where it is AI driven in real time, what is the first thing we need?
So we need AI models, and then we need services like AWS config and Azure
Now,
policy.
before we need the AI models, what do we need? The first thing, which the AI needs to consume to
The
understand the
data.
content, the data. What do you call that data?
What do you, which like
What kind of data does the system really creates? These
the
systems, service apps.
the policies and the security frameworks and all of that data, and the data from the devices, like how many devices are there and what
What
kind
do
of
you call
things,
that data? What do you call that data? Those are what?
like in terms of GRC context.
No. Look. Web server
In
creates a set of data, and database servers create a set of data. You need to create the edge
logs,
devices. Sorry, what?
logs.
Logs. That's what I was asking. Okay, logs. So now we have logs. What do we need? Another thing to make sure that none of the logs are dropped, everything is there, and then we implement AI models, right? To enforce GRC in real time using AI-driven decision making. What else do we need? We got the logs.
To ensure that nothing drops. So to ensure that machines are running, like matrices and traces,
Yeah,
metrics and
but
traces.
those are, you already answered. Okay. So I'm going to move on because we're running out of time. MQTT, push logs via MQTT or HTTPS to CloudWatch, Cloud SIEM. Everything goes there. Then you put in AWS CloudWatch logs, Azure Log Analytics, push them in, and then run the models AWS config and Azure policy logs are via API are also moved in there as well. Then you start using the AI model to start reading the logs so that it can make a decision based on the logs or recommend the decision in real time. What is happening at the edge? That was the answer. But that was okay. It was a tough question, right? Okay, what are the key architectural vulnerabilities in your diagram that you showed me in your presentation? In the AI enhanced edge computing model you have presented, right? How would you mitigate risks like data poisoning, model inversion, and cloud drift? These are the biggest problems. We are handling these problems like ourselves as well. So first of all, how would you manage the data poisoning happening within your cloud architecture?
So for data poisoning, it's simple. We can use verified data sources and verified data sets that are
How would
not
you do that at the edge?
at the edge. Okay, so at the edge, we can like we have the access to the data, and we can remove noise from that data.
No, no,
And
no, 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 no. So there's a thing in the OWASP. So input validation, validation and adversarial robustness training. That's what you use. You mentioned AI enhanced edge computing, right? Your topic is AI enhanced. So that's what it needs to make sure the implement edge side input validation and adversarial robustness to make sure like it is the model is trained. Okay, model inversion. What would you do? How would you challenge? How would you mitigate this risk?
for model inversion, like model drift,
Drift is coming next. This is model inversion.
can you rephrase this reversion? I don't get this.
Inversion, model inversion. If I give you the answer, if I explain that to you further, that
Then
will
that
be the answer.
is it like versioning, related to versioning?
Yes, d- yeah. I mean, if I give you more, then you will be able to answer, right?
Model inversion.
So you have to restrict access to the outputs using differential privacy. Go back and check all of these things. You'll be able to see. Okay. Okay. All right. So next is cloud drift. What would you do in the cloud drift?
Like the cloud resources drift in infrastructure as code.
Yes.
So, if I have a template in infrastructure as code template, and then someone like manually changes the resources, then that is a cloud drift. So for that, we can implement like policies that if anyone changes resources, it should be only from the infrastructure as code templates and not manual. So we can implement role-based access control to also ensure that only the authorized users can change resources.
Okay. Uh, all right. The last question I have is, so how would you ensure secure key lifecycle management? The generation of the key, the rotation of the key, and the revocation of the key, right?
So for for
Uh,
that we
with
use
this, look, hold on. Let me finish, right? In a bi-directional communication setup between thousands of edge IoT devices, right, which resides on AWS and Azure. How would you do that?
so
There's a there's a solution by AWS.
AWS Greengrass and IoT Edge provides X509 certificates for authentication and authorization, and for
No, 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 no. So
key
no, no, no. I'm not asking
verification.
about, I'm saying, uh, okay, how would you do this
For the
using
key
AWS? Hold on. How would you do using AWS KMS and Azure Key Vault simultaneously?
So with KMS and Keyword, we can also combine like event-driven compute like Lambda and Azure functions, and that can then connect with the edge or the other resources where the keys are used, and that can automatically rotate keys after certain period, like how we declare it.
Okay. Let me compile the results. How was your exam?
I mean, mashallah, it was like good enough. I know that I have passed it. Inshallah.
Okay, this is my feedback for you. Okay. So first of all, the presentation was good. You scored 21 out of 25 in the presentation. Okay. In the part one of the exam, which is pretty good, alhamdulillah, which comes to 84%, mashallah, okay? And the Q&A, you scored 80%, 20 out of 25, okay? 80%. Again, this is good. So your total present, for both the parts, part one and part two of the last exam part, I mean, the MCQ is separate, right? It comes out to altogether 82%. You scored merit, mashallah. Okay. So congratulations. You've passed your exam. This was a tough exam, right? I could have gone multiple, layers. I could have peeled multiple layers and gone further, deeper, but that's not my goal. The goal is we want to test our students how good they are, right? At the age of 18, right? Or as per the documentation, 16. I'm just going to refer to the documentation 16. At the age of 16, you have, the stuff that none of the people know, right? This is my recommendation for you. You have completed your AI Ops. You have to complete your Al Razak program. Al Razak program will be given to you within this month, right? So in the next 1 month, 1 week or so, 2 weeks, by the end of this month, you will be given access to around 2,000 labs or something. But those are not labs. Those are tasks, objectives, question answers, many, many things, right? So you will go through all of them, but your focus is going to be on IoT, right? And your focus is going to be, because since you have done your metric exam, right? Only 10th grade, which is O level, you've completed this thing. I'm going to now push you forward. And, and the next thing you have to do is like, do the Al Razak programs. Absolutely, yes. But then also position yourself in terms of doing basically Kubernetes exams as well, right? Try to become the next QB astronaut in Pakistan, right? This is where you're based right now, right? This will help you significantly because even if you go into the IoT side, and if this is something you want to do, because we are going to ask you about your top 10 job roles or industries you want to work in, right? This is one of them. This is one of them. Uh, there's a huge scale implementation going on in Internet of Things and AI of Things. The Internet of Things relies on AI of Things, artificial intelligence for things, right? But artificial intelligence of things cannot work without Internet of Things, because Internet of Things is where you connect everything and you start collecting data, right? So even AI is being used in enhancement of the edge devices, MQTT, all of those things, right? Essentially, if you work on this thing properly, in 2030 vision of Saudi Arabia and many of these Gulf nations, right? You can essentially go there, inshallah, right? And start working there. The other thing is, because you have secured 82%, which is merit, you're now also eligible. Once you complete the other requirements, you will be eligible to get our sponsorship to move outside of your country, right? That sponsorship is basically financial bank statements and financial letters, so that you don't have to show your own financial bank statements and whatnot, will be sponsored through us, right? So this is a great opportunity for you, inshallah, to proceed further. Okay, that's one thing. You must complete Al Razak program. You still have 6 months, 7 months left before your subscription expires, right? If your subscription would have expired and you wanted to do Al Razak program, then obviously you needed to have access to the portal and pay, but you don't have to pay anything. The containers are there, everything is there, right? I am going to ask you a series of questions later on. You will receive a questionnaire, right? Which you have to respond back to us. Have you completed the KYC process? Know your customer, right? That's the data. So we're going to use that data to create some certain things for you, inshallah. Okay, this will help you in securing better opportunities. I am also going to ask my team to interview you for a possible coming on board as one of the narrators in terms of being able to explain the labs and do much more hands-on work with us as well at the back end, right? That's another opportunity you can tap in as well, inshallah. Okay. Again, congratulations in terms of passing the exam. What should you do after AI Ops? Finish the Al Razak program, start applying for jobs. Have you started applying for jobs? You haven't, right? Because your resume is not ready. Your resume will be ready once you complete Al Razak program. So you have to complete Al Razak program. That is going to open doors for you globally, inshallah. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't have questions. I want to talk to you privately for 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes, but it will clear a lot of things for me for like the next 3-4 years. So if
We'll give you that
you
time,
can,
inshallah. I will give you that time. Okay. Inshallah. So we'll give you that time. If you want to ask that question, I will be live. And when I'm live, you can come there and I will bring you forward to ask those questions so that when I answer those questions, it helps everyone else's. Okay. Inshallah. Okay. Jazakallah khair for your time, Salman Qureshi. Again, congratulations in terms of passing. You scored very well and you secured merit. And mashallah, that's very good score, 84% and 80%, or overall 82%. That's good, mashallah. Okay. All right. Jazakallah khair. The academic operations team will contact you if they need more further data or whatever the case is. They will let you know, inshallah. Okay. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.